But I think I have an awesome message and I'm so excited to share that with you. So let's get started. So over the years, I've seen a common problem with executive dashboards. They can be busy, the color schemes can send mixed messages, uninspired design language, or just poorly selected visualizations. But the killer is the trap of all visualization platforms, and that is the unspoken pressure to use graphs and move away from text. In the next 30 minutes, I will demonstrate how to communicate effectively with your executives through the power of simple text. I will share with you 4 principles that will transform your dashboards, and when you walk away, I hope you feel empowered to ask, why this graph and why not simple text? And inspired to reduce and simplify your dashboards in order to create a communication strategy that will give your organization's leadership insightful and easy to understand dashboards. My name is Tosef Islam. I'm a visual analytics consultant with Decisive Data, where I design and build world-class dashboards that embody data visualization and user experience best practices for Fortune 500 companies. Before Decisive Data, I was a Tableau subject matter expert and reporting analyst for the global credit team at PACCAR. Recently in March, I finished teaching my first college course on data mining, and no one failed. Welcome to Who Needs Graphs, Designing for the Executive Attention Span. During this session, I'll review 4 design principles that I utilize to design insightful, captivating, and easy to understand executive level dashboards. I would like to stress the word executive. These principles may not be as effective for individual contributors or mid-level managers. Number 1, understand their attention span. You have to ask yourself, who am I designing for? Before you start creating your dashboards, it's important to know your audience. This is so important that if you read Tableau's white paper on 10 best practices for building effective dashboards, it's the first thing you will see. However, I think people can know their audience but still design poor dashboards. That is because new dashboard developers forget to build dashboards based on level of interactivity and time availability for their audience. 2, utilize simple text. In order to communicate quickly, I will show you how you can use simple text to tell the same story most graphs do. And please don't take this principle back home and start using Excel. That's not the message. 3, eliminate the extra work for your executive. Ask yourself, do you really need all those filters and parameters? Filters and parameters can be great tools on dashboards for individual contributors, but filters and parameters need to be thoughtfully selected for executive level dashboards. 4, stay consistent in your design. Through the power of small multiples, create an economic communication strategy. Small multiples is a design principle you are all familiar with, whether you know it or not. And it's time to start incorporating this principle in your executive dashboards. So to best illustrate these principles in action, I'm going to paint a story for you using one of my favorite shows, Game of Thrones. So who watches Game of Thrones? Hands up, hands up. Fantastic. Everyone else, kind of out of luck. You're not, I'm joking. So meet Andy Skeleton. He's an analyst. You all have analysts in your company, and he's a Tableau user who reports to Mr. Night King, the CEO of White Walker Incorporated. Now, that's a scary face. Imagine if you had to give that guy a poor sales report. Oh. So let's get to know Mr. Night King a bit more, and I can kind of paint the picture of, the executives and the CEOs, the CFOs that you might work with. So Mr. Night King, the CEO, is very busy, not very technically inclined, also because I don't think Game of Thrones has computers, but he wants answers fast for all of his reports. And hopefully you can relate with your leadership. Whether you work at a Fortune 500 company or a startup, you have this type of person. This person will email you on a Friday wanting answers like yesterday. That's just how it goes. And we all have someone like this. So it's important that when executive dashboards are developed, you understand these 3 qualities and decide to build your dashboard intentionally. Your dashboard must communicate effectively with these busy individuals. So what happens when you don't build an effective dashboard? What does that look like? So let's imagine Mr. Night King asked Andy to develop a dashboard so he can survey the amount of people his army has killed, executed. I guess that's kind of rough, but let's take a look. So Andy develops a dashboard. Looking at it, all the numbers are there. The CEO has some filters, parameters to zero in on specific dates, and it looks good. There's a banner, gradient colors that I love gradient colors, so I think it's cool. And the dashboard works. The CEO wanted to track his army's killings, and this dashboard facilitates that answer. So I've created numerous executive dashboards like this, and maybe you have. Definitely not as simple. This is just one graph, but most of my dashboards previously had the same feel, look, use of filters, all of it. And every time I developed a similar dashboard, I received like a pitiful amount of views and interactions. Like I remember distinctly checking the dashboard views, and the majority of views were from myself and my manager just checking to see if it updated correctly. So one day I'm leaving work, I'm walking back to my car, and I run into a mentor of mine, and I told him of my problem. I was like, my dashboards were not being used. I thought they were hot, they were looking good, they were working, the data was right, but no one was using them at all. So he told me something very profound, and I'm not sure if he came up with this himself. It might have been a fortune cookie, but it left a mark on me. So it's, if you design a solution and no one uses it, is it really a solution? So those words haunted me for a month, and then something clicked. I think I understood what he meant. So think about the word solution. So if you ask Amazon Alexa, the definition is like a liquid mixture. Well, in the Tableau world and the greater visual analytics universe, it's a bit different. You have to understand it's not about the solution. For example, the equation 1 + 1 is 2. The solution is 2. However, the answer doesn't matter at all. What really matters is how you visualize that solution. So do you display the number 2? Do you show 2 blocks? Do you show someone a bar chart where a bar has gone up 2 points? This is visual analytics. The solution is just as important, if not less important, as the visualization used to display it. So if I created a visualization, but my client is not deriving any insights or finding it useful, and let's say my data is right, then I'm not using the correct visualization to communicate the data story. Visualizations need to be selected based on the preferred communication style of the client. The best dashboards communicate and speak the language, utilizing the best visualization for the intended audience. This is the biggest thing I think new dashboard developers miss and don't understand and grasp. So I was reading a fantastic business intelligence book by Brian Larson. And I remember coming across this page and just staring at this pyramid, and finally I kind of understood what the basic visualization style should be for everyone within an organization. So if you're new or you need a simple guide to frame your dashboards, use this pyramid. So this pyramid defines the level of detail an executive like the Night King or an analyst like Andy is generally willing to accept. And in turn, that dictates the visualization in which the data should be presented. On the bottom of the pyramid, you have your individual contributors. These are the people with their boots on the ground who need to work with very detailed data. These people on the bottom layer will have the most time to interact with that data. As you move up the pyramid, you will find your mid-level managers who require a summarized version of the data, but with the ability to drill down if needed. Finally, moving to the top, this is where your executives and your C-suite members are. And I want to point out, as you move up the pyramid, the individuals who make up that layer will have less and less time to interact with your dashboard. That's just because maybe they're working multiple project streams. They're just busy individuals. As you can see, on the very top of this pyramid, these executives have the least amount of time. and require highly summarized KPIs with very few requiring drill down ability. To summarize, as you move up the pyramid, your audience will probably prefer to spend less time on your dashboard and want those answers as quickly as you can give it to them. So let's run through these different levels and take a look at dashboards that might exemplify what you would use at that level. So individual contributors like Andy, they're your analysts, your specialists, your subject matter experts. They are people who have an amazing wealth of knowledge over their domain. Individual contributors tend to have more time for each project and usually develop a deeper understanding of their specific subject or area of responsibility. In order to feed their insatiable appetite for data and ownership of one's domain, dashboards for individual contributors should be robust. Many filters, drill down capability, multiple visualizations that assess their area of responsibility from different perspectives. So I pull this from Decisive Data's portfolio of dashboards. So take a look at the asset management dashboard. This is a perfect example of a dashboard that would be utilized by an individual contributor. There are multiple visualization types, specific information on property details, occupancy represented in multiple fashions, filters that let you zero in on specific information. So this is a dashboard that requires a bit more time to understand. Each visualization forces the reader to reorient themselves and able to digest the information that's presented. So this is a dashboard for an individual contributor, someone who has a lot of time to expend at their workplace. Mid-level managers are your team leads, supervisors, or maybe junior directors. Mid-level managers work multiple project streams and tend to have a generalized knowledge of their projects or their areas. When developing dashboards for these individuals, you need to simplify. What you will come to understand as you move up the pyramid, this becomes the trend. Individuals higher in the pyramid tend to have less time available to interact with the dashboards. Using less filters, creating simpler visualizations, these thoughtful design changes can really differentiate your dashboards. Mid-level managers do not have the same time available to them as individual contributors, so you really need to be a bit more straightforward with your dashboards. So take a look at this one. This was also pulled from our portfolio. So this is the real estate snapshot dashboard. And the best thing about it is it has been simplified. There are only two kinds of visualizations, a bar graph and a line graph. Simplified filters on the left. I know it looks like there's like four, but it's just one region filter made into like a clickable filter. Finally, the flow is great. You get your national view on top and your market views on the bottom. And as you can tell, it's much simpler than the previous one. Only two types of visualizations, no real drop-down filters there. I mean, this is the kind of dashboard you would expect a mid-level manager to use. When you're designing for executives like the Night King, what and how you're communicating needs to be done in a very specific manner. Highly summarized KPIs. Why? Because executives are usually very busy individuals who need answers as quick as they can get them. In order to communicate effectively with the top of the pyramid, you need to consider using the most simplified visualizations you can. And this guideline should immediately dictate the visualization you choose to use in Tableau. And I hope you choose simple text, or at least ask yourself, why not? So let's take a look at an executive dashboard. So this is a 9-box. I've never heard the term a 9-box, but it makes sense, and I've seen it elsewhere, but this is my first time using it. What it does is there's insightful text and there's a consistent design language. This dashboard is even more simplified than the previous one. Only a text-based visualization with 3 main colors and 1 drop-down filter. As you can see, the trend has continued. It's even more simplified. This is what I want you to be comfortable with. Building insightful text visualizations, eliminating the extra work, and creating a consistent design language. So let's start reviewing the principles. First, simple text. So what we are currently looking at is the number of viewers for the Game of Thrones per season in millions. And I know that title looks like crap. I actually pulled it from the Statista website, so it's not my title. I would have changed it. But it's a simple bar graph, right? In Tableau, you take a categorical pill and a measure, throw it up in there, boom. This is what you get. Very simple. However, this chart could be much easier to read and analyze. So I'm gonna ask you a question because you're all at this conference. I know you guys are all wicked smart. You're gonna get it like that. So once I've read the question, I would like all of you to raise your hands once you have the answer. What is the percent change from season 5 to season 6? Sorry about that. So none of you are raising your hands, and I gave you too much cred, but I still think you're super smart. So the answer is 12.3%. It's no surprise that doing that kind of calculation is much easier once you have the numbers available to you. But what if you get rid of the graph altogether and replace it with simple text? Now you don't even have to think. The answer is right there. This is the power of simple text. Instantaneous data dissemination to your audience. And this is what most busy executives want. Why bog down a dashboard with graphs that take too much time to understand and read? Do your executives a favor and be concise and direct with your message. And I think many people fall into this mindset or trap that Tableau is a visualization platform. Therefore, they need to use a bar graph, a scatter plot, and God forbid, a pie chart. But what's interesting is Tableau doesn't even think that. The first show me visualization is a text table. Text is a powerful medium of communication, period. So powerful, Tableau, a visualization product, made it the first visualization in their show me drop-down menu. So if you're not familiar with this menu, it's a menu on Tableau sheets that lets users quickly build visualizations. I've seen a lot of new Tableau users use this. I use it sometimes. So next time you're building out an executive dashboard and you're about to use a graph to display a KPI or metric, just ask yourself, could it be simple text? And most times it can be. You just need to design correctly. So in Andy's dashboard, he had 4 filters, which isn't much. In fact, I think 4 is a fine number. However, when you're dashboarding for executives, it's important that we align our design and visualizations to that of the pyramid. And for executives, that's highly summarized KPIs. Executive dashboards should be fast and easy to digest and understand, including multiple filters and parameters. Make executives hunt and peck for answers that should otherwise be right there, they can quickly see. Filters and parameters can be somewhat overwhelming for those higher in the pyramid. So they're best reserved for dashboards for individual contributors or mid-level managers, people who have more time to interact with your dashboards. So this is when people ask me, well, Tosif, what if my executive wants to see several different markets or a subset over a KPI? How do you eliminate filters but still be able to slice and dice the data and communicate the same amount of information if necessary? Small multiples is the answer. Small multiples is a series of similar visualizations, and what it does is create a consistent design for all metrics, which in turn reduces the amount of time a user will have to reorient themselves to understand the data. For example, take a look at this gender and ethnic disparities dashboard utilizing small multiples. If you're wondering where to get this, check out Visit of the Day on Tableau Public. So the main section is made up of these butterfly or petal-like diagrams. But each business has the same representation of their own data. Once the user has reviewed the How to Read It section, the user can quickly identify areas of interest and readily compare multiple businesses. What this does for the user is give them more immediate access to the data. There's so much on this dashboard, and what this author has done is create a simple, elegant, and fast way to disseminate all that information. So let's quickly take a look at Airbnb. It is the very first business in the top left corner. Airbnb has a sizable amount of employees that are Asian and white, with few Latina and even less that are African American. However, in comparison to Splunk, the business next to Airbnb, we can immediately see that Airbnb has more female and total more Asian employees. And this is the power of small multiples. Immediate insight as quickly as you can think the question. So I want you to let you know, this isn't a fancy concept that only Tufty diehards, understand and implement. I know you've seen this format elsewhere, and nearly everyone has. For example, the mighty stock ticker. This page, just like the previous dashboard, is utilizing the idea of small multiples. So I want you to pay attention to the bottom half. With each stock, you get the same metric in the same order and fashion. Name of the stock, price, change, percent change, and so on. This continuity of design and the simple order makes the data so much easier to understand. This is the power of small multiples, utilizing economically insightful visualizations in order to disseminate that information as quickly as you can. So currently, I have, stock that have made gains selected up there. I think it's in yellow. So let's switch to a different tab and let's see if you can kind of understand what's happening. Visually, not much has changed. This page is almost identical to the last one. The difference lies with the stocks that are listed. So I've selected most active stocks. So, however, since we reviewed the last page, we don't have to do much to understand the information that's presented here. The layout is completely the same. Stock name, price, change, percent change, and so forth. We did not have to take any time to reorient our minds to understand what was being presented in front of us. Finally, I want to talk about color. It's not one of the principles. It wasn't number 5 or anything, but it needs to be mentioned. So if you're using text, just be merciful to your users and clients and use some color. Color is really adds a lot of context to the metric you're displaying. And I hope I'm not the first person to tell you that, but if I am, let me show you an example. As you can see, color adds another dimension to simple text. By adding color, you can make simple text easier for your customers to understand the data. So now that we've covered all 4 of our principles, let's review them. So 1, understand their attention span. Use the pyramid to dictate your communication style and visualization choice. 2, utilize simple text. Always ask yourself, is there a better way? How can I communicate with my executives as quickly as possible? 3, eliminate the extra work. Remove the unnecessary filters and parameters so your users don't have to hunt and peck for answers. 4, stay consistent in your design. Utilize small multiples to create simple, elegant, and easy to understand metrics. So remember Andy's dashboard. I don't think he utilized any of these principles. So let's review his first dashboard and take a look at what he would do if he utilized the principles that are up here now. So now that we've reviewed these principles, I know all of you can see where Andy went wrong. First, this is a dashboard for an individual contributor or a mid-level manager maybe. The visualization is simple, but you really have to work it to get your answers by adjusting the filters. Second, there is no simple text, which makes it difficult for executives to quickly derive insights. Third, there are unnecessary filters. 4, due to the amount of filters there, Andy decided not to utilize small multiples. So let's pretend Andy reworked his dashboard now with the principles we reviewed today. Totally different, right? Let's walk through this oh, looks like the Night King likes it as well now. So let's review this dashboard and take a look at some of the changes. 1, because Andy has opted to utilize simple text with supporting line graphs, he has finally created a dashboard that executives can quickly grasp and understand. 2, he has created simple text visualizations that show not only what the year-to-date metrics are, but also the percent change. 3, by reducing the amount of filters and instead creating multiple simple text visualizations, he has reduced the amount of work his users will need to do to find the answers that they require. 4, by utilizing small multiples, Andy has been able to slice the data in 4 ways. Year-to-date and month-to-date executions, which is up, fantastic. And finally, year-to-date and month-to-date conversion count. So this is the nerdy part. So if you've never watched Game of Thrones, that's when a human, giant, or animal, or dragon comes back to life as a White Walker or a zombie. So this dashboard is dramatically different than the previous one. It is thoughtful in its consistent design and simple in how the data is communicated. I hope when all of you go back to your organizations that you apply some of these principles. However, I just want to stress, these are principles that I believe that will up-level your executive dashboards, but do not live and die by these principles. Treat them like tools in your toolbox, and finally, communicate and talk with your executives. When there's an open conversation, and you take the time to correctly scope out that business ask, you will find in combination with the principles, your dashboards will really start to shine. So thank you very much for attending this session. Please fill out the survey. Say nice things, hopefully. Talk about my shirt, that would be wonderful. So if you want to touch base afterwards, I'll be at my company's booth, Decisive Data. I think I'm the only guy wearing a Hawaiian shirt, so you can't miss me. And please feel free to email me at tosef.islam@decisivedata.net. Thank you.